Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. In the 1850s, the French neurologist Guillaume Benjamin Amand Duchenne conducted electrophysiology experiments by applying electrical probes to stimulate facial muscles. The goal was to understand the connection between electrical impulses and the physiology of emotions in one of the earliest studies of human expression. During a traveling carnival in April 1926, members of an extremist group were recorded in Canyon City, Colorado. They moved along the main street and took part in attractions of the event, and the image ended up on the front page of the local newspaper the next day as a record of the period. The photograph records the mushroom-shaped cloud over Nagasaki, Japan, on August 9, 1945, moments after the use of a weapon of great destructive power. The detonation occurred at 11:02 in the morning and devastated much of the city, marking one of the most impactful episodes of the 20th century. The German airship Hindenburg was photographed flying over New York on May 6, 1937, a few hours before an accident in Manchester Township, New Jersey. The event had serious consequences and marked the end of the era of large passenger airships. The event, known as the Great Molasses Flood, occurred on January 15, 1919, when a large tank ruptured in Boston and released approximately 2,300,000 gallons of molasses through the streets, reaching about 35 miles per hour. The occurrence caused severe damage in the North End neighborhood and affected many people. A British bulldog remains at the doorway of a barricaded house during the Blitz in the 1940s. During air raids, many families reinforced their homes for protection, and the image portrays the routine of vigilance and resilience of the civilian population. During the civil rights protests in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, the photo shows children and demonstrators being struck by high-pressure water jets used by the police. The scenes of violence caused national outrage and helped strengthen the civil rights movement. In Antarctica in 1961, the Soviet physician Leonid Rogozov noticed signs of appendicitis while working at a research base. Since there was no rescue available due to snowstorms and he was the only professional in the field, he had to perform the medical procedure on himself. 2 days later, he had recovered and returned to his duties. At 106 years of age, a woman was photographed in 1990 in front of her home in the village of Dug, near Goris in southern Armenia, holding a rifle to protect it. The scene, recorded by Armine Yohannes, reflects life amid the tensions of the post-Soviet period. A curious practice arose in London in the 1930s when babies were placed in cages suspended outside windows to receive fresh air. Despite the apparent danger, there were no reports of accidents or serious consequences during the period in which the idea was used. The Montparnasse station disaster occurred in Paris in 1895 when a train entered at high speed, failed to brake, and burst through the wall, falling into the street. The accident became famous for its striking image and became one of the most iconic records in railway history. In 1933 in Berlin, Germany, a circus performer appeared inside a car aquarium filled with crocodiles. The vehicle was adapted to carry water and to allow the reptiles to be displayed to the public while in motion. The steamship Princess May ran aground in Alaska in 1910 after being caught by dense fog. Although it carried nearly 150 people, all passengers and crew survived without injury, turning the accident into an impressive record of the navigation of the time. The 1913 record shows a woman in Mongolia subjected to a form of confinement inside a wooden structure used as a disciplinary measure at the time. This method was part of public punitive practices adopted in certain historical contexts. The dog Laika was sent into space on November 3, 1957, aboard the Soviet spacecraft Sputnik 2, launched from Kazakhstan. She became the first living being to orbit the Earth, marking a milestone at the beginning of the space race. The chimpanzee Enos rests in his flight capsule shortly before being launched by the Mercury Atlas V mission on November 29, 1961. On that day, he became the first primate to orbit the Earth, a milestone of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration space program. On July 4, 1905, spectators gathered to watch a horse diving show, possibly in Pueblo, Colorado. The attraction, very popular in the 19th century, consisted of horses, sometimes with riders, jumping from towers up to 59 feet high into pools of water. Actor Johnny Eck appears in a promotional photo for the 1932 film Freaks. Born with an underdeveloped lower torso, he gained recognition in film and in the circus for his uniqueness. The feature film, directed by Todd Browning, became a classic of the period, known for bringing together performers with different physical conditions. Olive Oatman lived part of her adolescence among the Mojaves after an attack that separated her family in the mid-19th century. Born in a Mormon community, she was welcomed by the tribe with the name Och and, years later, returned to Western society. The Syrian bear Wojtek joined the Polish Second Corps in 1942 during World War II and was treated as a real soldier. He received a rank, a serial number, and a service booklet, becoming a mascot and partner of the fighters. During the military coup in Chile on September 11, 1973, the photographer Luis Orlando Lagos, known as Chico Lagos, captured the image Allende's Last Stand, showing President Salvador Allende armed inside the La Moneda Palace. The portrait became a powerful symbol of resistance and of the collapse of Chilean democracy. A large accumulation of bison bone material was recorded around the mid-1870s, awaiting processing to become fertilizer. The scene reflects the mass hunting that nearly drove the species to extinction in the 19th century. The 1917 portrait shows a Red Cross dog equipped with a gas mask. During World War I, these animals were trained to rescue wounded soldiers and carry supplies amid the fighting. During the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Apollo 11 mission on July 20, 1969, the astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first man to step on the moon. The photo shows either Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin on the lunar surface, with the Eagle module reflected in the helmet. The event marked one of the greatest advances in space exploration and in human history. This photo was taken in New York on September 20, 1932, during the construction of the RCA building, today the GE building, at Rockefeller Center. It shows 11 workers having lunch seated on a steel beam suspended more than 820 feet high without any protection. The English archaeologist Howard Carter opened in 1922 the innermost part of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, discovered near Luxor in Egypt. The find was one of the greatest milestones of archaeology, revealing treasures of ancient Egypt preserved for more than 3,000 years. The not yet assembled face of the Statue of Liberty was photographed in New York shortly after its arrival from France on June 17, 1885. The structure was sent disassembled and would only be erected on Liberty Island the following year. A World War I veteran who had his sight impaired during the conflict is recorded at his wedding in 1921. Many soldiers returned from that time with permanent limitations, and the image symbolizes the adaptation of these veterans to civilian life after the end of the battles. Ivan Unger, a member of the aerial group Flying Black Gnats, and the aviator Gladys Roy were photographed playing tennis on the wings of an airplane in flight. The image records one of the daring stunts that marked air shows in the 1920s. In London in 1939, the the Welsh spiritualist Colin Evans simulated levitation during a session. He jumped in the dark and recorded the moment with an infrared camera, creating the illusion of being suspended in the air. Evans became known for this trick amid the popular interest in spiritualism in the period between wars. Nikola Tesla, a physicist of Serbian origin who became an American citizen, was photographed in his Colorado Springs laboratory in 1899 beside the magnifying transmitter, one of his most famous experiments with electricity. The machine produced striking discharges and was part of his studies on the wireless transmission of energy. The Italian explorer Attilio Gatti was recorded in 1930 in the Belgian Congo alongside two hired pygmies and a gorilla captured by them. Gatti carried out several expeditions across Central Africa in the 1920s and 1930s, documenting local populations, wild animals, and hunting practices. After the death of Harriet Cole, a cleaning worker in a hospital, her anatomical material was assigned to scientific studies in 1888. The physician Rufus B. Weaver achieved an unprecedented feat by isolating and preserving the entire human nervous system. The process took about 6 months of meticulous work and resulted in a rare piece used in the teaching of medicine. In the state of Montana in 1936, the photographer Margaret Bourke White recorded the monumental Fort Peck Dam, still under construction. The image was chosen for the first cover of Life magazine and became a symbol of optimism and economic recovery promoted by New Deal projects during the Great Depression. During a trip to New Orleans in 1955, the photographer Robert Frank captured the image Trolley, New Orleans, showing passengers separated by racial segregation inside a streetcar. The scene portrays the social divisions of the time and became an icon of documentary photography. The photograph Dali Atomicus was created in 1948 as the result of a collaboration between Salvador Dali and the American photographer Philippe Halsman. In the image, the surrealist artist appears among suspended objects in a composition that became an icon of experimental photography. 4 riders moved through the streets of Amsterdam in 1973 during a day when cars were prohibited because of the oil crisis. The population had to use alternative means of transport, showing how the city temporarily adapted to the restrictions of that period. In the ring in Lewiston, Maine, in 1965, the photographer Neil Leifer recorded the instant when Muhammad Ali stands over Sonny Liston just after the knockout. The photo, which captures the height of Ali's confidence and determination, became an icon of world sport and one of the most recognized images in the history of boxing. James Naismith, the creator of basketball, appears holding one of the first balls in a basket used in the sport in a photo taken before 1939. His invention, created in 1891, quickly spread around the world and became one of the most popular sports. Recorded in 1895 by the German physicist Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, the image shows the hand of his wife, Anna Bertha Röntgen, with the bones visible and a ring on the finger. This was the first X-ray in history, marking the beginning of medical radiology, allowing the interior of the human body to be observed without surgery. During the birth of his daughter in a hospital in California in 1997, the engineer Philippe Kahn captured the first photograph taken with a cellular telephone. He adapted a digital camera to the device to send the image over the internet in real time. In rural New York in 1904, the photographer Edward Steichen produced the image Moonlight the Pond, portraying a quiet landscape under moonlight, hand-colored with pigments. The work joined photography and painting, becoming a milestone of pictorialism. At the beginning of the 20th century, the photographer Edward S. Curtis produced in 1904 the famous image The Vanishing Race, portraying Navajo riders disappearing on the horizon. The photo became a symbol of the cultural loss of indigenous peoples and a milestone in the visual history of the United States. During a moment captured in Paris in 1932, the photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson recorded the image behind the Gare Saint-Lazare, showing a man leaping over a puddle behind the railway station. The photo exemplifies the concept of the decisive moment in which action and composition align perfectly. During a transatlantic voyage in 1907, the photographer Alfred Stieglitz recorded the image known as the steerage aboard the ship Kaiser Wilhelm II. The photo shows lower-class passengers among stairways, ropes, and gangways, revealing the social inequalities of the time. Around 1888, the photographer Jacob Riis recorded the image Bandit's Roost on Mulberry Street in the Five Points neighborhood in New York. The photograph shows a narrow alley inhabited by immigrants and marked by poverty and crime. Riis's work exposed the harsh conditions of urban life. During the Harlem Renaissance in 1932, the photographer James Van der Zee captured an African-American couple wearing raccoon coats and posing before a Cadillac. The image symbolizes the pride, the elegance, and the prosperity of the Black community, reflecting the cultural and social spirit of Harlem at that time. In New York City in 1978, the artist Cindy Sherman produced the photograph Untitled Film Still No. 21, in which she appears portraying a modern woman amid the urban setting. The work is part of her series of self-portraits that investigate female roles and the clichés of cinema. In the early 1980s, the photographer Robert Mapplethorpe presented the series Androgyny, 6 Men plus 6 Women, gathering portraits that question the boundaries between the masculine and the feminine. The balanced and precise compositions reflect his search for aesthetic harmony and opened space for new discussions about identity and gender expression in art. The portrait Brian Ridley and Lyle Heater from 1979 presents the couple posing in an elegant room with clothing of an alternative style. The work uses visual impact to address themes such as identity, personal expression, and the construction of social roles. In 2000, the British photographer Michael Nick Nichols captured the image known as Surfing Hippos in Loango National Park in Gabon. The photo shows hippopotamuses moving among the waves of the Atlantic Ocean, a rare behavior for the species. Commander Richard Byrd appears wearing a helmet and a leather mask, specially designed for his flight from the Svalbard archipelago to the North Pole and back. The journey, made in 1926 aboard a Fokker airplane piloted by Floyd Bennett, covered about 1,367 miles in a little more than 15 hours. The Army Sikorsky R-5 helicopter was tested in Bridgeport, Connecticut on January 10, 1946, carrying 17 people and the pilot on a demonstration flight. The trial was part of attempts to set records for altitude, speed, and performance with load, while spectators watched and waved in the background. A group of people dressed as smiling mice gathered in Ocean Park, California, around 1930 for one of the earliest meetings of the Mickey Mouse Club. The club arose soon after the character was created by Walt Disney, reflecting the rapid popularity of the icon in American culture in the early 20th century. The cyclomare was presented in Paris in 1932 as an amphibious bicycle capable of moving on land and on water. Despite the innovation, the model did not become popular and remained only a technological curiosity of the period between wars. In Clifton, New Jersey, the engineer James A. Craig presented the automatic radio telephone Dial Direct in 1957 from Dumont Laboratories. The system was a pioneer in allowing direct calls from vehicles without assistance from the telephone companies. Experimental skates with pedals and wheels were tested in 1910, as shown in the photo of a man using this early version. The invention reflected early 20th century efforts to create new personal means of transport. A man displays the Krumlauf, an experimental accessory created by Germany during World War II. The piece, a curved barrel for rifles, was designed to allow shots around walls and over barriers, but it ended up being little used in combat. The inventor Hugo Gernsback posed in 1963 for Life magazine wearing his television glasses. The experimental device projected images directly before the eyes and was one of the earliest attempts to create portable screen technology. On September 3, 1967, vehicles and pedestrians mixed in chaos in Stockholm, Sweden, on the day the country officially changed traffic from the left side to the right side of the road. The episode became known as Dagen H, or H Day. President Lyndon B. Johnson appeared on April 10, 1965, at the wheel of his amphicar, an amphibious vehicle of West German origin capable of moving on land and on water. Produced only for a few years in the 1960s, it became an automotive rarity. During a session in Paris in 1955, the photographer Richard Avedon portrayed the model Dovima between two circus elephants, wearing a dress created by Christian Dior. The photo joined elegance and contrast, becoming an icon of 20th century fashion photography and a symbol of the transition between the classic and the modern in haute couture. In Colorado in 1948, the photographer W. Eugene Smith documented the physician Ernest Cariani while he cared for patients in rural communities. The series Country Doctor became a milestone of humanistic photojournalism, portraying the dedication and the effort of physicians in isolated places. Taken in 1943 during World War II, the photo shows Betty Grable posing from the back in a white swimsuit, looking over her shoulder. It became the most famous pinup poster among American soldiers, a symbol of morale and of the popular culture of the time. During the Mexico City Olympic Games in 1968, the American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised a clenched fist with black gloves during the national anthem. The gesture, known as the Black Power Salute, denounced racism and racial inequality in the United States. On the streets of New York in 1916, the photographer Paul Strand recorded the image "Blind," portraying a visually impaired woman who sold small items. The photo unites realism and social critique and is considered a milestone in the transition to modern photography and a sensitive portrait of the urban inequalities of the time. In the year 1934, an image attributed to the physician Robert Kenneth Wilson showed an elongated figure emerging in the waters of Loch Ness in Scotland. Known as the surgeon's photograph, it aroused worldwide fascination and fed the myth of the Loch Ness Monster for decades until it was exposed as a clever fabrication. Freddie McIntosh, 8 years old, appears wearing a special sun protection suit. Due to an illness, his skin was extremely sensitive to daylight, and the clothing allowed him some mobility outside the home without harm. Patients perform exercises at the Sint Willebroordus Psychiatric Hospital in the Netherlands on February 14, 1956. The record, made by Henk Blansjaar, shows therapeutic practices adopted at the time to promote discipline, physical activity, and rehabilitation in mental health institutions. At the Los Angeles Zoo in 1939, the elephant Billy was removed after being considered a possible threat. Large animals at an advanced age could become difficult to handle, and the management made this decision for the safety of the staff. The episode reflects common practices in zoos in the early 20th century. The Hungarian engineer Stefan Nailed presented in 1935 a machine that, according to him, could make people and objects invisible. Photographed beside the invention, he drew the attention of the public and the press amid the atmosphere of scientific curiosity and bold inventions of the period between wars. The program Michelin Hour was launched in 1928 on United States radio, sponsored by the tire manufacturer Michelin. The orchestra performed in grotesque costumes as the photo shows, joining music and marketing in one of the earliest radio entertainment experiences with a strong advertising character. The filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock met in 1957 with Leo, the lion that became the symbol of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. The photo brings together two unmistakable marks of cinema, uniting the master of suspense with the most famous animal in Hollywood. At Palisades Amusement Park in New Jersey in 1951, contestants in the Most Beautiful Legs contest covered their faces with pillowcases so that the judges would evaluate only the legs. The competition became one of the unusual attractions of the park. Children take part in an improvised swimming class in a schoolyard in 1922. At that time, many schools did not have access to pools, but educators used simple methods to teach water safety. The image shows creativity in the face of a lack of resources and the beginning of the development of school physical education. The severe winter in Montreal led in 1939 to the creation of plastic helmets worn by women as protection against snowstorms. The curious accessory illustrates experimental clothing solutions developed at the time. Dress rules were strictly enforced in 1922 when the policeman Bill Norton measured the length of a bather's swimsuit in Washington District of Columbia. The rule established the maximum distance between the hem of the clothing and the knee. A boy was photographed beside a pissoir, one of the many public urinals installed on the streets of Paris from the mid-19th century onward. These structures became part of the urban landscape as a hygiene solution in busy areas of the city. During the 1927 Tour de France, cyclists were photographed smoking cigarettes while competing. The scene reflects the customs of the time when tobacco was widely accepted, even amid high-performance sports activities. In the winter of 1936, a merchant in Denmark drew attention by hanging more than 1,000 coats on scaffolding around his store. The unusual strategy worked as an open-air showcase and attracted buyers during the cold season. The scene from the late 19th century shows Jack, a baboon who worked for 9 years in the South African railway system. He assisted with operational tasks and became famous for never making a single mistake in his work. The inventor George Stern revealed in Maryland on November 10, 1938, a highly volatile fluid that vaporized so quickly that it could not be ignited. He believed that its usefulness would be in producing frightening effects for horror films. During World War I, a man demonstrates a steel helmet, splinter goggles with vision through narrow slits, and a gauntlet with a dagger, equipment produced for the British Army. These items reflected attempts to increase individual protection in combat. A gigantic octopus-shaped balloon was inflated at the Barrage Balloon Training Center at Camp Tyson, Tennessee during World War II. These balloons were used as air defense to hinder attacks by enemy aircraft. Edward Llewellyn captured in 1903 the largest Black Sea bass ever recorded in the world with a weight of 425 pounds. He took the enormous fish home by himself, demonstrating impressive physical effort. The feat became a historic milestone in sport fishing and remains one of the most notable records of the early 20th century. In the late 1980s, the artist Richard Prince produced the work Untitled Cowboy, recreating an advertising image of Marlboro that showed a cowboy under the sunset. By transforming an advertisement into art, he prompted reflections on authorship, consumer culture, and the myth of the American hero. In Yosemite Valley in California in 1861, the photographer Carlton Watkins captured the image Cathedral Rock, revealing the grandeur of the rock formations of the region. His large-format photographs were fundamental in promoting the conservation of nature. On the streets of New York in 1943, the photographer Ouija, Arthur Felig, captured the iconic image, The Critic, contrasting two elegant women leaving an event with a humble woman watching them with a critical expression. The image exposes with irony the social differences and became a classic of street photography. Soldiers peel onions while wearing gas masks in 1941 to avoid eye irritation caused by the odor. The scene shows a practical solution used during a period of conflict when improvisation was necessary, even in the simplest tasks. In the summer of 1966, the Chinese leader Mao Zedong took part in a public crossing of the Yangtze River in Wuhan before photographers and supporters. The image was used as political propaganda, representing strength and rejuvenation at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution. Soldiers of the United States Army were photographed sitting around a table, while at the same moment another soldier on horseback jumped over it. The scene shows a training exercise carried out in a relaxed way, recording the combination of military discipline. The new Oldriev tricycle was recorded in 1882 by the photographer Chaz W. Oldriev. This kind of invention was part of attempts to create more stable and practical personal means of transport in a time of intense innovations at the end of the 19th century. The diving suit called Iron Man was presented in New York in 1907. Built of metal, it had protection against water pressure and an electrical charging system, allowing longer periods underwater. The 1941 scene shows a telepath attempting to hypnotize a chimpanzee during a performance. Demonstrations of this kind were common in shows and in alternative research of the time, reflecting popular interest in hypnosis, telepathy, and animal behavior in the early 20th century. The Soviet cipher clerk Igor Gouzenko hides his face in an interview with the Associated Press in 1945. An employee of the Soviet embassy in Ottawa, he defected to the West, carrying more than 100 secret documents that revealed an espionage network in Canada. Scouts examined their boots after walking 12,888 kilometers toward the first Scout Jamboree in 1920. They covered about 25 miles per day for 2 years to take part in the international event, demonstrating discipline, physical endurance, and commitment to the scouting movement.